Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call our meeting to order. We're going to have a roll call by our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
If you all join the Pledge of Allegiance, if you all rise, Councilmember Melendez is going to lead us.
Please place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I'd like to remind everyone what the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for the items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. Students wishing to receive credit for attending this evening's meeting must stay for a minimum of 1 hour. However, we ask that you stay for the completion of an item rather than leaving in the middle of a discussion. When you're ready to leave, you may ask one of the sheriff's deputies or a staff member in the back of the room to sign your paper. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to the clerk secretary staff. Speaker slips are available on the table just outside the city council chambers, and speakers will have 3 minutes to address the city council. With that, we will go to the approval of the agenda by our city manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to the agenda this evening.
We did have a closed session earlier, and our city attorney, Walter Chung, will bring us out of our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. There were no reportable actions taken in today's closed session.
Okay, then that takes us to our presentation, and we have 2 presentations this evening. The first is letters of appreciation for members of, I'm going to try my Spanish, Guerreros en Acción por un Vista Limpio, or better, Warriors in Action, not better, but different English, Warriors in Action for a Clean Vista. So we're going to come down there and we're going to present the presentations, the letters of appreciation to them. So if y'all want to join me down here. I'm going to have Councilmember Contreras here. I'll do this. Well, let's see. How will we do this? You come over here and read, and I'll hand. Perfect. And then maybe somebody can give pins. Deputy Mayor, you can hand out pins.
Hello, everybody. I want to start off by reading the letter of appreciation. This is, again, for Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio. This letter of appreciation is dedicated to the generous, community-focused efforts of Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio, also known as Guerreras. Since August 2019, volunteer-led Guerreras have performed trash walks every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. that begin at Luz Duran Park. Guerreras clear trash from Vista's roads, sidewalks, parks, open spaces, thereby reducing waste in the city's storm drains and waterways. Collecting litter is no small task. Despite inclement weather and heat, Guerreras walk 2 to 3 miles throughout the city picking up trash. With strollers and families in tow, Guerreras pick up at least 120 gallons of trash on their weekly walks. Vista is proud of its residents' volunteerism and interest in making Vista safer and more beautiful. The community is better for the work of Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio. The Vista City Council offers its sincere gratitude to the members of Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio for their service to community. So I'm going to go ahead, and we got a lot of certificates. I know not everybody could make it, but I want to start off with our team captain, Capitan Jovita Serafin. She is the founder, leader, and team captain, and if you want to participate in a trash pickup, she's the person that you want to communicate with. Jovita, please come forward. And then we have Michelle Veloz. And you have two because last year your name was Jesus Veloz. Cristian Mercado. Jennifer Mercado. You're going to see we have a lot of families. Over the summer, there's a lot of participation from our youth here in Vista, and unfortunately, it's difficult to get here to the Civic Center sometimes on time. Irlanda Serafin, also known as Linda, and they're a dynamic duo up here. We got two sisters, Jovita and Erlinda. Brandon Suarez. Come on down, Brandon. Juan J. Suarez. Juana Suarez. We're going to read them all for the public record. So, Jose A. Suarez. Obdulia Diaz. Come on down. Obdulia's been with us since the very beginning. Muchas gracias. Magali Sosa. Xiomara Diaz. Xiomara is an OG too. Maria Martinez. Tienes dos. Por acá. Roxy Obeso. Ruben Diaz. Sebastián Diaz. Rosa Elvira Diaz. Leticia Lopez. And this is actually something that came from the community. Folks wanted to do a trash pickup, and we got it started. So since 2019, Silvia Lopez. Stephanie Martinez. Diana Martinez. Jasmine Cuenca Garcia. Julio Rafael Morales Garcia. Guadalupe Garcia Quintanara. Zair Azu Morales Cuenca. Anieri Samari Sánchez Cuenca. If you ever see strollers cruising around District 1, somewhere around 9 a.m., it's probably the trash pickup crew. Juana Angeli Cuenca Garcia. Olegario David Perez. Maria Alvarez. Verónica Martinez. Samantha Martinez. We're getting to the end, folks. Ashley Martinez Lopez. Edgar Armando Lopez. Victor Alejandro Herrera Cuenca. Mike Saldana. Thought I saw you somewhere. Maruf Soliman. Blank Aponte. Osvaldo Gomez. Eduardo Zamora. Edwin Arenas. And Lisette Arenas. Thank you all so much. I'm going to give this to our team captain, and she'll be able to pass it out at the next trash pickup, which is on Wednesday at Luz Duran Park.
In front or you want us to be back here? Back here's, in front's better? Okay, everybody.
I know, right? Let's all go in front and squish together for a picture.
Okay, our next presentation is our Vista Fire Chief with our Vista Fire Department update by Fire Chief Ned Vanderpool.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me here this evening. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to all the members of the Vista Fire Department. We have personnel that do everything from handling payroll to paying the bills, inspecting businesses, to the firefighter paramedics who are out there standing at a hospital wall for 2 hours waiting to offload a patient to a nurse. So the whole team right there puts together the whole Vista Fire Department. So I'd like to start by thanking them multiple times a day out there helping the customers. So the next slide, we have a kind of an overview of what's been going on in the fire department. First of all, on the fire inspection side of things, we've completed 2,257 weed abatement inspections, and this is a really critical component of our overall fire mitigation plan and our weed abatement program. Other inspections, 1,193 of those include businesses, apartments, schools, anything else that falls into that category. And then we've done 281 plan reviews in the office. On October 17, we have a new fire inspector starting, so we're excited to get that individual on board. On the fire side of things, we've had 21 structure fires to date this year, 15 of those being residential, 98 other types of fires, and that's everything from trash, rubbish fires, vegetation fires, and vehicle fires. On the medical side of things, 6,322 calls on the medical side. That's obviously most of what we do. There's been a significant challenge on two fronts of that. First of all, the offload delays at the hospital, and then an increase in call volume. So the firefighter paramedics that are on the ambulances are really taking the brunt of that. Kind of an interesting note when I asked our ESO to share some data, it's on the use of Narcan. So Narcan is a medication we use to reverse the effects of opioids. And in the first quarter of last year, we administered that 72 times in a regular dose of between 2 to 4 milligrams. In the first quarter of this year, we've administered it 127 times. And the interesting piece is that the dosages that we're administering now are between 4 and 10 milligrams. So it just kind of identifies and highlights the significance of the opioid problem that we're encountering. The next slide we have is the strategic plan. So the strategic plan continues to guide our progress and our decision-making. We have made strides in all 7 of those categories that you see there, and we continue to push forward with collaborative involvement at many levels in the organizations. It's really exciting to see all the different people that are involved in the administration of this strategic plan. We had a really good presentation from a number of different individuals at our all-hands meeting recently and showed what's been going on in this area. So good things happening there. The next slide talks about some of the challenges, the solutions, and the opportunities. So I mentioned the ambulance usage. So our ambulances are spending a lot of times on incidents, and that's a big challenge for us currently. Some of the things that we've done to address that challenge, we've added a Bls unit. So North County Fire Protection District has one of their ambulances stationed there, our Station 6. We're going to be switching that to a 24-hour unit shortly, so that'll definitely help out. We've also had border drop increase with all units across all agencies. So we had it where there was one of our neighbors was not sharing their resources equally, and so we've been able to change that, and now they're sharing equally across the borders. We also have it where one medic can oversee multiple patients at the hospital, so they're able to turn over a patient to a medic that's already there to free them up to get back in service. And then we're having ongoing conversations with the hospitals. They're obviously having staffing challenges just like everybody else out there, and they're doing things like adding signing bonuses and bonuses for people that stay on for a certain amount of time. Speaking of challenges in hiring and staffing, we are in the same boat. We are continuously, aggressively hiring is what we're doing now. Anytime we have a vacancy, we're hiring to fill that vacancy. We have 4 right now in the process that are going through physical and psychological testing, and we're starting another recruitment for 4 more firefighter paramedics. So we're really trying to hit this head on to decrease the workload on the firefighter paramedics. Other things that we've done is the recruitment committee. We have a recruitment committee set up of floor personnel, and they're really leaning into getting out into the schools and being proactive. The fire service has changed significantly where we used to just accept people in, and it wasn't much effort on our parts to get people, but now we've had to change that. So we're being very proactive on the recruitment side as well. The Explorer program is back in full swing, so we've gotten that restarted after a couple-year hiatus. And so the goal there is to really start people at a young age in the Explorer program and then have a process for them to continue with the Vista Fire Department to kind of grow their allegiance to Vista and then be long-term employees of the city. We're also awaiting word on the SAFER grant. So we put in a grant for 6 additional firefighter paramedics to staff an ambulance at Fire Station 6. We haven't heard yet, but we are hopeful that we'll get that grant to help out. Some other exciting news, county fire prevention officers have just set up a scholarship in the name of Mike Mcfadden. And so Mike, very passionate about the fire service and about education and teaching. So it's great to see the county fire prevention officers setting up the scholarship to help students who are going into fire service, either the prevention side or the suppression side. We also had a number of Vista Fire personnel that were assigned to incidents throughout the state over the past couple weeks. They've all returned either on fire engines that they were assigned elsewhere or in what's called overhead assignments. We just completed our annual compliance report for accreditation, and that's obviously an annual report, as the name implies. That was approved by the assessor, and that will go before the entire accreditation commission for approval, and we expect that to happen next month. Station 3 is on schedule, and the next step on that is to bring that the contract forward to the council for your approval. So we're looking to do that next month as well. And then we're also working with the general plan update on a wildfire hazard mitigation plan. So that will be a part of the general plan, and that will go in very nicely with the community wildfire protection plan that we just completed with the Vista Fire Protection District. On the grant side of things, we've received $8,000 for regional training, $70,000 for threat and hazard identification and risk assessment. So this is a comprehensive look at the entire city to see what the threats are and the risks that are evident, and that we can go about identifying those risks, prioritizing them, and then doing things to mitigate what those risks are. So that'll be very exciting. We received $10,000 for skin cancer screening. So this is part of our ongoing efforts to be proactive when it comes to skin cancer and cancer prevention in the fire service. $28,000 for rescue and extrication airbags. And we're still awaiting a significant regional grant for self-contained breathing apparatus, as well as the SAFER grant and $70,000 for thermal imaging cameras. One other thing to add here is that we are back to kind of the Narcan discussion, the opioids. Our emergency manager is working on setting up a regional discussion on fentanyl and what the community can be doing to address that issue that's affecting everybody. On the apparatus side of things, we have a new apparatus in service. We put a new brush rig in service, and the following day it was gone for like 2.5 weeks or something on a bunch of fires all over the state. So it got a baptism by fire, literally. We also have others in production right now, so we've been very proactive on the fire engine side of things because of changes in regulations, cost increases, and supply chain issues. So we actually have 2 in production that right now that are going to be here early next year, and then we'll have 2 more shortly after that. So a lot going on in the fire services, fire department, as you can see. That concludes my presentation. I'm certainly available for any questions.
Councilmember Franklin, or Deputy Mayor Franklin, sorry.
Oh, you know, I was
No.
questioned earlier. Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much for the presentation and overview. I want to ask a little bit on the fire prevention side. So in District 1, we've had some really severe fires that, we lost the whole auto shop. Recently, we had a fire at a taco shop that really impacted that whole strip mall. So, I know there's a lot of things to inspect. Do we do inspections at these locations, or is that kind of out of the scope of what the state regulation is?
We do inspections on all businesses in the city. It varies with the location of the business and how frequently those inspections are accomplished. But yeah, that is definitely a part of what we do as far as inspections go.
Do you happen to know the last time that, that Gordita, what is it, the taco shop, Gordy's, was inspected? I mean, you probably wouldn't know off the top of your head, but that's something, with these kitchen fires, that I'm really concerned of. So I don't know what we need to do as a city to be a little bit more proactive, but I do see it as a concern. My question would be the same for the auto shop that burnt down, like when was the last time that we inspected it? So I think that the fire prevention is such a key piece to our overall public safety strategy that I really, maybe offline, I can get some more information. And the last time that, anything on that strip was inspected, because I think Coyote Cafe is back up and running, but, for some folks, this is like the only type of food that's walking distance. Luckily, the market wasn't affected by the fire where they had to close down. So that's really good.
Yeah, if I can just address that. So what we look for is trends. So if we see a trend where we are having a lot of kitchen fires, or if we're having a lot of auto shop fires, that's something we'll address with public education and then being proactive, really focusing our efforts on that. But yeah, it is definitely a big concern in the fire prevention world, because when you have that one business impacted for weeks or months or years, the trickle-down effect to the rest of the community is really significant. That's one of the things that was identified back in the 70s with the America's Burning study, is that the impact, the social impact, the cultural impact, and the economic impact are really significant. And so that's why we are so intentional about what the inspections look at and what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I would like to get a little bit more information just to look at the dates, because I love data. So being able to see, hey, this was inspected, 5 years ago. Maybe there's something that, as a council, we need to have a discussion on the fire prevention side. Now, looking at something really important that you brought up, which was Narcan, you said it was 127 this past quarter,
The first quarter of this year.
the first quarter of this year? Okay.
Incidents where we administered Narcan.
And is that significantly higher than the previous quarter?
Correct. The previous quarter, the first year of 2021 was 72. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And the other part of that too is the dosages that we're administering are significantly higher as well. So both sides of that equation.
Okay. This is something that is really alarming. I don't know if you know where we are currently, if we're going to break that 127.
We are trending upwards, yes.
Okay. So this can be a full-fledged discussion for a different day, but, trying to see how we can address the opioid crisis is definitely a priority, and especially because we have such limited capacity, right? We only have so much staff, so with those numbers trending upwards, it means that, individuals being saved, but at the same time, there's other needs, right? So we have to make sure that we're saving as many people and addressing as many crises at a moment's notice as possible. But with that upward trend, it's really concerning that we may, I don't know what the staffing levels are. If this continues to trend upwards, that's a huge increase. So I appreciate you putting this information in the report so that we can all be aware.
May I address a couple things on that?
Yeah, sure.
So one of the meetings that our ESO, Emergency Services Officer, went to today was about that topic. So that was brought into the discussion. We also have the fentanyl discussion coming up from our emergency manager. And then there's also a regional discussion happening, I think next month as well, or maybe later this month. That's going to include a lot of the partners through the Office of Emergency Services. So there's a lot of regional discussion happening, and the goal there is to break down any of the silos that might exist and make sure everybody's sharing information and cooperating as good as possible, because everybody identifies that it's a regional problem, and so we have to address it from a regional perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So I would love to just be informed of that process moving forward, so that way if this body needs to make any decisions, then we can have the information necessary to see what the crisis looks like in real time and historically. I wanted to ask about the Explorer program. I am really excited that we brought the Explorer program back. We have a lot of youth in the audience today, so could you just kind of go over what that Explorer program is, how old you have to be able to enter it, and any costs associated?
Sure. So they actually had an open house on September 24, just this past weekend at Fire Station 6. So we have a number of personnel in the fire department, some that have gone through the Explorer program that are leading the program right now. So it's very exciting to see that. It's 16-year-old to get in. There are costs associated with it, but there's also some programs that are available to help offset some of the expenditure that you need. And what they do is they come in, it's on Saturdays at Fire Station number 5. You have Vista firefighters are leading the instruction for the class, for the program. And then you kind of work your way up in the program and you get to a point where you're doing ride-alongs at the fire station. So it's as the name implies, it's an exploration. It allows people to explore the position and see if it's something that interests them. Law enforcement has something similar as well, but we encourage people to go to the fire side because it's better.
Right. And so, once someone goes through the Explorer program, do we guide them for next steps? Is there like a Explorer, graduating academy? So for those who want to continue in the fire service, they kind of have a roadmap?
We have that in a kind of a roundabout way. What my vision is that we'll have an Explorer program. Individuals will go to an EMT program. We might have a reserve program where they can continue on after they age out of the Explorer program. And then the goal really is to keep them in the Vista Fire Department the entire time. So Explorer program to reserve to EMT to paramedic, and then we hire them on as a firefighter paramedic. So
Awesome.
that's the long-term plan for sure.
Very good, yeah. I mean, being in the fire service is a extraordinary profession, and we definitely want to see a lot of our youth here in Vista go through this program and have the opportunity to go through the program, go through the entire program and continue along that path if they so choose. I think I remember seeing somewhere it's like $250.
I do not know
Is
the
that,
cost.
okay. I don't know if anybody knows, but one thing that I would like to hear is, if we do have funds to help individuals that need help with the costs, then, maybe that's, again, something that the council needs to discuss moving forward if there's not enough funds for scholarships and we see an increase in interest and application for the Explorer program. And the last thing that I want to say is I think it's incredible that we are looking at how to address with this 24-hour BLS unit, how to address that shortage. But, I feel like it's almost like a bandage on the whole issue. So I look forward to seeing, what opportunities we have as a city to ensure that we have a really robust way to address emergencies. So I really appreciate the update. And I did say that was the last thing, but I wrote on here the wildfire mitigation plan. Are there any other details on that, or?
Well, there's two components. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan that the Vista Fire Protection just completed is a public document that's available for review. And then the Wildfire Mitigation Plan will do a similar look at it, identifying high-risk areas within the city that are susceptible to wildfire, and then anticipating what the damages would be in certain weather scenarios and how that might impact the community.
Sure. And is that taking into account, future predictions as the climate crisis worsens? Unfortunately, we continue to see more, fires, extreme heat, more areas that may be at risk of fire that maybe once weren't so high. Is that part of this process as well?
The modeling that they use takes into account various weather scenarios, regular onshore day as well as the most extreme Santa Ana day. And so, unfortunately for us, where we're situated, it's about as bad as it gets, so you can't make it much worse.
I don't know. I feel like it is getting worse.
Well, no, I'm just saying from a scenario standpoint.
Right. I see what you mean. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And those are the only questions that I have.
Mayor, if I could, Mayor and Council, there is a scholarship opportunity for somebody that has a financial hardship for the Explorer program, so that is already in place.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Chief Vanderpool. Super good information. One question that I had for you is with the increase in the Narcan from 120 up to 127 from 72, is there any type of supply issues? Like, is there any, did we forecast for it going up that much? Make sure we had everything we need from that aspect?
We do have supply issues in other areas, but Narcan is not a concern.
Not there. Okay, cool. And then as far as like recruitment, I know you said you have a recruitment committee. I know that, we have some vacancies, have some people out on injuries, and have a whole lot of firefighters putting in a lot of shifts. Have we, and I guess it's more of a question, is there anything as a council, like as a body, that we can do to help with recruitment? Are there any other fire departments offering like signing bonuses or, educational repayment incentives or anything like that? There, as you know, our firefighters here on a 4896, which, is a tough schedule when you have to have extra days in there. And, recruiting is a big thing. I know they're having problems with it all over the place. But since we're the best city to work in and the most amazing fire department, is there anything we can do to help with recruiting or anything you could suggest to us that we could maybe add?
Not offhand. I think the best thing we can do is have that ground level support from the floor, which is really what we're doing. Having those firefighters out there really being involved and engaged at the community level. I think that really is the best thing we can do, and having our crews out there being involved in public education events and really being the face of the fire department. I think that's, from my perspective, that's the best thing we can do. But I'll definitely, if there's anything that comes up or if I hear of anything, I'm not aware of any other agencies providing signing bonuses.
Any
or
type of
anything.
incentives or
Yeah,
anything?
I anticipate that could happen, sure, but at this point, I don't.
The Dodgers do it, you know. So.
Hospitals are doing it, yeah.
Yeah, I got you. And then also the border drop collaboration. I know a lot of the reason for the, extra BLS unit that we had was because, the workload that we were carrying and we were going into our sister cities and they weren't necessarily coming into our, area here with the additional, weight or load being carried, I guess, by our sister cities now. And adding the additional North County Fire Protection District ambulance. Is there any, stability that's been provided by that, or has any relief been provided as far as like our call volume as a city? Has it went down as far as what we service with all of the extra, I don't know what you call them, resources that we've added, I guess?
The call volume hasn't necessarily gone down, but the equity has increased. So before it was very unbalanced between how much we were providing our neighbors and how much they were providing us in return. So we've achieved more of a balance, but the call volume and more importantly, the time committed to calls has not changed much. And so we still have other things we need to address.
In the city, our sister cities are handling their calls more frequently per se than they were before.
Correct.
All right, cool. And then I love the accredited fire department thing. I think it's amazing. I know, I was wondering one more time, I wanted you to shoot the stat out for us again. How many departments are accredited within the county of San Diego and how many within the state of California are actually considered accredited fire departments?
There's none in the county of San Diego that are civilian fire departments. The federal departments are, but they're accredited to a slightly different standard. But in the state of California, I don't know offhand. I think it's 300 nationwide, maybe 20 in the state.
Wow. So we're leaps and bounds above most from that aspect. All right. And you mentioned that you were waiting on a grant for self-contained breathing apparatus. My question for you on that is, if the grant doesn't come through, is there a need for self-contained breathing apparatus? And are we ready in the event it doesn't come through to purchase it if it's a need?
Yes, so we are ready. The exciting thing about the self-contained breathing apparatus is that this was a regional grant, so we partnered with some other agencies in the area.
Nice.
And so if we're able to get it from a regional standpoint, and FEMA really likes that in grants when they see it as a regional project. So we would be replacing ours earlier than anticipated, but we're getting to the point now where the cost of maintaining the existing SCBAs are very high, and we're having a hard time getting parts, just like everything else in the world. So we are ready. It would be very nice to get this grant to get this new system in place.
Okay, well, I mean, it's an upgrade. What we have now is working. In the event we don't get it, there's no timing issue where it's like, hey, it's urgent that we get
No,
this.
there is a timing issue, but it's just when the SCBAs time out basically, and we do anticipate, and we have that ready if we need to.
Perfect. And then the last thing I just wanted to re-mention was the Mcfadden Fire Protection Scholarship. How awesome. Mike Mcfadden lit up every room he ever walked into. I never saw the guy without a smile on his face, even when he was making laps around, Vista Magnet Middle School in the last couple months he was working here. So I think honoring Mike Mcfadden is a huge thing and a great way to keep his memory alive in the community. So thank you for the update, and thank you for answering all my questions. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, and great questions from my colleagues. And thank you, Chief Vanderpool, for being here for this presentation. And thank you to all the amazing heroes with our Vista Fire Department. I just want to say that this photo here at the top, is that the mobile home park off of Olive?
No, that's on East Vista Way, just by Taylor.
Okay, well, I saw it as a mobile home park fire, and there was, maybe not this year, but previous year, a really intense fire right up against, my neighborhood on Getting is right next to the mobile home park off of Olive. And it's really scary when something is burning so close to you. So I was just amazed. There was such an incredible lineup on my street, right, several blocks away, preparing just in case something happened and the structure continued to burn. But it's amazing what you all do. every day to keep us safe. My question is really provoked by your description of the physical and psychological testing that our firefighters have to go through in order to join our fire department. So I was just curious, could you tell me a little bit more about the testing process?
Sure. So in order to become a firefighter, you have to go through a physical ability test. So that includes doing various things that you would have to do as a firefighter: raising a ladder, dragging hose, those, hitting a sledgehammer, those kind of things. So that's kind of the entry level piece of it. When they go through the entire hiring process, they go through the interview, they get a conditional job offer. Once that happens, then they take a physical. So they go and meet with a medical doctor, and they go through and get a physical exam, basically. And then the second part of that is the psychological test. And the psychological test varies, but it could involve an interview with a psychologist. It could involve various standardized testing processes that people go through. There's a whole list of different tests that they go through. So that's what it's looking at: physical ability, and then also physical capability, and then psychological testing as well.
Awesome. Definitely need some intensive testing, right, to ensure that you're equipped and prepared to handle these crises. And with that, I know that there are a lot of traumatic experiences that our firefighters and paramedics witness and go through. So I just wanted to check in about mental health and well-being for folks in our department. Do we believe we have adequate resources for people that are, struggling due to their experiences? Obviously, incredible bravery, but we are all human, and just wanted to make sure I ask that question.
Sure. So we have a number of different programs in place. We have a peer support program. So we have individuals in the fire department that have gone through a 2-day training to get just basic information on peer support. And the primary thing there is to identify if somebody has an issue and then be able to refer them to the appropriate provider. We also have a behavioral health contract with a company that's available for crisis intervention. If we have a very significant incident, they'll respond out to the scene or respond to the station to follow up with the individuals or the crew. And they also have therapists available for follow-up one-on-one basis. We have the city-provided EAP, Employee Assistance Program, which is an option. We also have a chaplain on board from North Coast Church, and he is available to respond out. He also comes to stations and just does visits. But we really lean on the company officers and the fire stations to be the one to identify any issues or challenges that people are having. And so we have all those resources that are available that people can reach out to. There's 800 numbers that people can call if they want something anonymous. There's also fire-specific resources. Fire Strong is one that we have. They can just call that number. The California Professional Firefighters has a Healing Our Own program, which again lists a bunch of resources that people can reach out to. So I feel like we do have an adequate number of resources right now. So it's a much more robust program than when I was first encountered with it 11 years ago. And things have changed significantly, all for the better.
That's great to hear. I definitely want to make sure I support improving, well-being and keeping morale up within our fire department. So thank you so much. I don't have any more questions.
I think that is all of our questions. I see no further questions. We will thank you for that report. It's very interesting. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is our consent calendar. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary, and items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of that calendar. And we have 6 consent items this evening, and so do I have anything? No, nobody from the audience has pulled anything here? With that, I would look for Deputy Mayor Franklin.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Green?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for the consent calendar. Please cast your votes. The motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to our public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. The first public hearing is to receive testimony on the 2021-2022 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. Public hearing is now open. Assistant City Manager Amanda Lee is going to introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The city receives annual Community Development Block Grant CDBG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. As a recipient of the grant, HUD requires the city to prepare and submit an annual evaluation known as a Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPER. The CAPER provides the city an opportunity to evaluate its overall progress in carrying out its priorities and specific objectives identified in the city's 5-year 2020 through 2024 Consolidated Plan and subsequent annual action plans. This CAPER summarizes the progress made in program year 2021, which covers the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Here with me tonight is Sylvia Solis-Daniels, Housing Programs Manager, who will discuss the CAPER's highlights.
The CAPER requires the city to assess how CDBG funds are utilized to address priorities that have been identified in the city's consolidated plan. These are to provide emergency shelter, crime and delinquency prevention programs, supportive services for seniors, health services, including mental health, emergency assistance, and improvements to community parks, public facilities, and infrastructure. Additionally, the CAPER does include broader goals that are addressed through non-CDBG funding, such as affordable housing and additional homeless resources. In 2021, that is a lot of reverb. In 2021, a total of 7,668 Vista residents received social services provided through contracts with various nonprofit organizations. This includes emergency shelter, senior services, youth services, fair housing services, health and mental health resources, crime awareness, prevention, tenant landlord counseling, and other emergency services. Additionally, city staff planned the design of nearly 2,000 feet of new sidewalk and ADA improvements installed on California Avenue, library renovations, and architectural design at the Gloria McClellan Adult Activity Center. Additional capital projects in the planning phase include a 1,700 square foot sidewalk project along Highland Drive and a 3,000 square foot sidewalk and curb and gutter, as well as ADA improvements planned for Maryland Drive. Additionally, the city received supplemental funding through the CARES Act that supported an additional 5,275 Vista residents. These were provided through social services offered by various nonprofit service providers for programs that prepared, prevented, and responded to the coronavirus. These programs and activities were available due to this supplemental funding provided through the CARES Act resources and are not an ongoing resource. In total, over $1.2 million in CDBG funds were spent in fiscal year 21-22 supporting public service providers, program administration, fair housing services, and capital improvements. The CDBG funds are allocated on a citywide basis. The community demographic profile is comprised of 50% Hispanic, 39% white, 3% African American, 4% Asian, 4% multiracial, and demographically, the race and ethnicity makeup of persons assisted align with CDBG funding and the diversity of Vista. Per HUD's guidelines, a 15-day public review period is required to provide the community an opportunity to review the city draft of the CAPER. The CAPER has been available for public review on our website and at the city clerk's office since September 13th, 2022, and no public comments have been received. Any comments received tonight will be included in the CAPER. This concludes our presentation, and we are available for questions.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Sylvia, for being here to present this. I am very much in support of all the programs and organizations that this CBDG funding has allowed to operate in our community. So I definitely am with you on that. I had a question about the planning process. So from my understanding, the plan runs from 2020 to 2024. And so we're currently right smack dab in the middle of that. When would we next be exploring the next cycle of planning for this?
The next cycle will begin at the end of this current cycle. So we'll begin that late in 2023 and
Okay.
plan throughout 2024.
And what does that planning usually look like? Is it community workshops, or is it up to the council's discretion?
In the past, it has included workshops as well as a survey that was offered online and in person. Ms. Lee actually oversaw the last planning process.
Awesome.
We also hired a consultant, and we went, where our consolidated plan is also through the county, so we go in collaboration. So the county actually released an RFP, and then the cities of, I believe it was Escondido, San Marcos, Santee, La Mesa, there was some other consolidated cities also went with the same. It was LaSar Consultants, and they came in and they did 3 different workshops. I believe we had over 600 people that did participate. And then we also had surveys as well, where I believe there was over 1,000 people who responded. And it went more and that's how we got to our priorities that you see on this screen is the priorities. And so those actually define where we go. And then every year we do an annual action plan to determine how we're going to actually obtain those goals that are identified in our plan.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that background. I think it's great that you bring up other cities. A lot of times, we can be concerned that other cities aren't doing their part, and seeing that we as a region are all receiving funds from HUD and able to utilize them for these different programs locally is really special. And I'd be curious to look at the other cities and see, compare and contrast what different programs do they have that we don't have, or priorities do they have that we don't have that we can learn from and expand our plan in the future. But for now, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I don't have any more questions.
If I could just add, we are one of the few, HUD actually highlights San Diego County. We are one of the few counties in the entire nation that get together on a quarterly basis. All Cdbg in the entire county get together and quarterly go over their plans and have a working group to discuss the plans. So we're definitely familiar with the other plans and what ours has and doesn't. And through our next planning process, we can include what they include as well, so then the council's more aware and also the community's aware too of other projects.
That would be great, and it sounds like a great collaboration we have with other cities. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee and Ms. Solis Daniels. CDBG is an amazing thing that we provide to our community. I just wanted to shout out our CDBG Advisory Committee and know that this is a citizen-run CDBG committee that actually gets to visit these charities and make decisions on where the funds are allocated. So a little shout out if you're watching or you're sitting in the audience and you're wondering, hey, how can I serve my community? Get on an advisory committee, fill out an application, because helping us allocate these funds to community organizations is a huge thing and makes a huge difference in people's lives. And Amanda, I appreciate all the work and all the knowledge that you have in this realm. I know for the past 6 years we've been going back and forth on all these programs that you help support and all of these advisory committees. You said applications are due for the new round of funding, or I guess we'll start receiving them late 2023. Is there actually like a date where it's like, hey, if you want to get in on the next source of funding, have your application package to Miss Amanda Lee or Sylvia Solis Daniels by this date?
So it will be in, the next cycle where we'll review applications will be January 2023.
Oh, you review them in January?
Yes.
Okay, and then you review them in January and you allocate at the end of the year? Or?
So I'm sorry, not review, we'll open the application period in January 2023.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I'm always excited to see what the new ones are and what the ones we continue funding and what the difference is. The amount of Vista residents and seniors and residents in general we're able to help is amazing. So thank you so much for this report, and thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Councilmember Contreras.
I want to echo my colleagues and saying to my coworkers on staff, thank you so much for all the hard work that goes into making this community better and putting that in a report. So I wanted to ask, because I'm trying to think off the top of my head, when it came to the COVID-19 nonprofit grant program, did the council set aside $300,000 for that? I see that $297,000 was awarded.
She's pulling the number. It'll be one moment, please.
Yeah, sure.
For both CV round 1 and CV round 3 total was about 1.3 million total.
Awesome. Yeah, because I know that part of the discussion that we had was like, hey, we're going to start off with this amount of money, and if there's more of a need, then we can have a discussion as a council to see what other kind of funding we have. With the information that you all have collected, does it seem like, there's excess money provided, or do you think that there's such a great need that maybe there could be more funding provided to some of our nonprofits, depending on, the applications that were received and whatnot?
I think that our nonprofit community was amply supported with the current round of Cdbg funding. In addition to Cdbg grants, we also offered a nonprofit grant program in January, and a lot of those organizations received both funding sources.
And there was also, for nonprofits, from the ARPA money we provided as well.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much the city can do, but there's so much that our partners that are nonprofits do. So it definitely, it seems like when we put money up, there's no shortage of applications because there's so many good programs within the city. So thank you for that. I'm just trying to remember all the different funding sources because I know we had a few different ones. I want to look a little bit at our youth, crime and delinquency prevention programs for 107 Vista youth. Could you kind of expand on that for the public record, what program that is or accumulation of programs?
Sure, it's a couple of different programs. It's 2 different service providers. The Boys and Girls Club offers their programming and resources for local children in the after-school program. And then it's also the VCC REACH program, which is an after-school program for RBV high school students located at RBV, run by Vista Community Clinic.
And so right now, REACH is only with RBV students?
Correct.
Okay. And would Vista Community Clinic be the ones to initiate a conversation if they wanted to expand to a different campus?
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe I need to have a conversation, but I feel like there's a big need. I think the REACH program is great. I really want to increase the number of our Vista youth that we're serving. Because 107, although that is life-changing or can be life-changing for these 107, we have a pretty young city. So there's actually a really big opportunity for us to figure out how to reach more of our children, more of our youth, and provide them with lifelong skills that are deeply necessary to get out of different circumstances, especially, ensuring that they have a successful transition from youth to adult. So I just want to put that out to my colleagues that I really feel like this is a number that we should strive to increase dramatically. Outside of that, I just want to give a shout out to California Avenue because those improvements were absolutely critical. I know that actually some of the individuals from Guerreras were really instrumental in pushing for different infrastructure improvements throughout District 1. And it took us a little bit of time, but we got a 4-way stop at California Avenue and Redlands, which was really critical for safe crossing. But the enhancement in sidewalk and allowing pedestrians to really feel safe in that area that has it's VAPA, it's California Avenue, Boys and Girls Club, right? We are going to have a little pocket park. So, and then we got a $3.5 million grant from Assembly Member Tasha Berner Horvath from the state for a soccer arena at the Boys and Girls Club. So I really want to continue focusing on public safety for our pedestrians and add to that, cyclists as well. As we see e-bikes go on the rise, I want to ensure that there's adequate, safe mobility infrastructure. So this is a really good start. And I really hope that it's the beginning of more improvements in this area that are going to have so many different resources and amenities for the public. So, lighting and safety and crosswalks, sidewalks, all these kinds of things are critical to community well-being. So I wanted to give a shout out because those improvements look absolutely fantastic. Outside of that, thank you so much. And it looks, I'll pass it over to my next colleague here.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to staff for this very important report. I would commend pages 7 through 10 to all of the community. They want to know more about how we're using these CDBG dollars to benefit our community. We're completing more than 500 affordable units with the new Senior Affordable Project, support for more than a dozen nonprofits, social work outreach to 289 unique persons with 2,426 different instances of social work, 4,089 bed nights of shelter, and many more instances, 988 Vista residents given emergency assistance with food, shelter, and clothing, 105 homeless Vista residents conducted comprehensive assessments to link them to housing. Fair housing services provided to 166 residents. A lot of important work here. I wish we had more ability to share with the community all that we're doing and for them to really see the depth and breadth of it. With that, I just want to thank staff again, and I would move that we accept the report and close the public hearing.
Okay, seeing no more speakers, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second, please cast your votes. The motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our discussion items. We have 2 discussion items this evening. The first is middle-income housing. Deputy Mayor Franklin asked for this item to be on the agenda, so I'm going to ask him to introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know we have a few speakers that want to present. I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of leaders in this space. Our community is asking us to do more to build attainable and affordable housing. This is a unique product that Chula Vista and Escondido and many of our neighbors in the county have utilized. What I'm asking for tonight is not to make a decision on anything, but simply to ask staff to take a look and bring this back to us for us to consider a draft ordinance at a future date to perhaps enable the city to adopt this kind of product. So with that, I'll have a few more comments, but first I'd like to hear from our public speakers who have a little bit more to share with us on the subject.
There are no speaker slips.
Oh, I guess we didn't have any more. I thought we were going to have a few speakers on the subject. Perhaps not. Okay, so, yeah, would you like to come forward and say a quick word? Yep. Sorry, we should have told you to put one of those speaker forms in.
So Sean Bradley, right?
Yes, thank you. Madam Mayor, council members, staff, I work with HomeFed. My name is Sean Bradley. We have been advocating this middle income program throughout the state and most recently externally in Texas as well. We find that it is a program that really serves all income bands throughout the community. As you just touched on, Cdbg funds and a lot of other subsidies and resources are typically targeting the lower income bands, extremely low, very low, and low. And those tend to get locked up. I mean, those are very, few and finite resources, and the people that qualify desperately need that as a resource for housing, but they're not incentivized to move, because if they were to not income qualify, they actually find themselves turning down opportunities for job advancement, promotions. What this program provides is a bridge and creates circulation for people not to get locked up in those lower income bands and do better for themselves, and really augments the housing stock for the community of Vista. We did a program, we were the first project in the county of San Diego, in the city of Escondido. And that has been met with just a tremendous response from the community. I guess the best way to underscore that is we currently have a waiting list of over 2,200 people for 519 units at Solana and Grand. We would be privileged to bring this program forward in the community of Vista. Unfortunately, right now, where bond rates are, there's not a lot of economic feasibility. So we're spending our time proactively doing the appropriate outreach to community leaders like yourself and helping them understand the benefits of the community so that when the economic opportunities present themselves, we're not stuck, because this is a long lead item. To appropriately educate you guys to the values and merits of the program, it takes time. And a lot of time working with private property owners, when you tell them, like, oh, well, it might take 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they don't want to deal with you. So during this downtime with the change in the economic environment, we have been spending our time doing that outreach and bringing people into the fold and garnering the support. Most recently, we did have Chula Vista adopt the program as a policy. I mean, they really kind of wanted to go through their paces. And right when we were really in the middle of bringing a project forward back in February of this year, but when bond rates basically went from 3.5% to 6% in 6 weeks, it was a $15 million hit to the proposal.
So Sean, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time to reach out to us and to meet with several of us and educate us about this important product. I think this is another tool for our toolbox to provide housing for different segments of the below median income need. And it also has the potential to deliver a larger number of units than we've been able to build with the traditional programs that we've pursued and benefit a large number of people. So I think it's important for us to consider, to look at our neighbors who have adopted this program, find out what their successes have been, what their failures have been, find out what the concerns of our other partners are, and to pursue the potential of providing this important product as a part of our housing needs in our community.
Great. I'm available for any additional questions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Franklin, and thank you, Sean, as well, for showing up. I'm looking at the add to packet that came in, and I know that the County of San Diego Board of Supervisors has the same agenda item. I mean, they actually have the overview of the program and the policy and things. It just came in as an add to packet a little bit ago. I didn't have it printed out, but I obviously have it in my email here. Is what we're asking is that we adopt a policy, or that we just direct staff to come up with a policy in which we have a different type of housing stock? Because I get it, we have very low income, we have low income, we have moderate income, but this is basically above moderate, or what we could consider attainable housing, right? Like from like a dual income family. So are you asking us to just have direct staff to come up with a policy? Is that the?
So I am asking us to give direction to staff to do the research, to consider a draft policy, to return to us with an ordinance for us to consider, if that's our will, to understand better the risks that are associated with it. My understanding of this product is in typical projects past, it's provided 1/3 of the projects for the 60 to 80% of AMI, 1/3 from 80 to 100%, and 1/3 from 100 to 120% of AMI. So it provides a different segment of need, but really, for those that are working families struggling to afford living in our city, it provides a very real opportunity for them. It also provides some ability to rehab existing housing stock, to give stability to, and we're seeing 10% inflation, 9.5% in the county. Their program provides a voluntary rent cap that would, by their proposal, be set at 4%, which could be a major benefit to the renters in those developments. So I want to better understand it. I want to have council to have a full conversation, and I want us to consider as a city whether or not this product makes sense. I think there's a lot of merit to it.
All right. No, I definitely like the idea of having more tools in our toolbox per se, and being able to add more housing stock to the city. When I'm looking at the San Diego County Regional Housing Needs Assessment, the RENA information, it sets the above moderate income at $128,300. And I think for the county, it specifies that the RENA allocation is $2,709. As far as our housing stock goes, and I guess this might be a city manager question, is the majority of our housing stock above moderate right now?
I'd ask John Conley, our Community Development Director, to answer that. I don't know off the top of my head.
It looks like the county's is, so I just assumed that we probably were close. Because what we're saying is, when we provide just the low incomes, it only services a very small portion of the community. If we do an above moderate housing project, that might get an opportunity for like our firefighters or public works, 2 working families that make $120,000 plus a year to find a place to live. So are most of the houses now above moderate, would you say?
So if you're asking about the existing rental stock in the city, yeah, the majority would be above moderate. There is definitely some that would fall within the moderate category, but I'd say overall majority is above. It's a market rate unit.
And from a vacancy standpoint, would you say that we're reasonably close to like the county's vacancy rate? I mean, 2 to 5% vacancy on rentals right now, and they're getting snatched up pretty quick.
We're pretty much consistent with the region.
Okay, so there is a need for all levels of housing, not just.
Absolutely. When it comes to affordable units, there's a shortage countywide across all levels.
And has the city of Vista ever had any type of program for an above moderate or attainable housing that services the above moderate incomes, like a dual income family that makes $120,000 a year or more? Or?
No, we've never had a program that's specific to moderate income families.
Okay. And Deputy Mayor Franklin, this is a question for Sean. He indicated that there were going to be 3 different levels, and I know we're going to get into it more, but it looks like it was very low, low, and moderate, and there was no above moderate. Is that there is going to be, sorry, Sean's approaching from behind, so you know he's taking footsteps.
No, it all falls under moderate. I mean, basically.
Even if it's above moderate, so like they say, the maximum moderate income is $128,300, but above middle income is 120% to 150% AMI.
Right, so you're looking at income qualifications versus, then where the rental bands are. So
Okay.
really it's 61, so anything, 50 to 60%, 51 is low.
Okay,
So 61 to 80 is moderate,
okay,
but then also 81 to 100 is moderate.
okay.
And then the same for the 101 to 120 band.
Okay, so it fits that whole upper echelon, it just doesn't fit that lower. Okay, it sounds like we've never done it before. I love being on the cutting edge and the tip of the spear, especially when it comes to providing housing for the community.
In the rental matrix itself is going to vary a bit because certain products position themselves differently within submarket. Newer products are charging higher rents, even though they may fit within that 80 to 120%. So we're always positioning it to meet the property and the embedded residents. But there is a public benefit, especially with us partnering with CMFA, California Municipal Finance Authority. I think they probably worked with the city on other bond issuances in the past. Their requirement is for a true public benefit to be realized.
Okay. So in order for you to build this, it has to be a true public benefit. What's the skin in the game from the city on something like this? Does the policy that we come up with have any type of financial ties from the city or from the council?
So typically the city would have been asked to forego their portion of the county property tax.
Okay, if we had a project.
But the program has evolved in the past year. So now there is a city host fee, which is an annual payment that in roundabout terms tends to make the city whole on what that amount would be.
So we don't have to sacrifice the property tax revenue.
And ultimately, the city becomes the beneficiary of the property. So the city joins the Joint Powers Authority with the CMFA in an ownership entity. There is no moral, legal, or fiscal responsibility to that entity. The asset itself is what repays the bond investors, the revenue bonds.
And it's at a set time, obviously, 50
And
years,
so
100
and then
years.
the public benefit, so it's like whatever, the income, whatever the qualified rent is at the time. On the 80% tranche, we apply additional 16% discount.
Gotcha.
And on the 100% tranche, we apply an additional 10% discount. And that's just programmatic with the CMFA.
Gotcha.
There's another issuer out there who, their program varies a bit.
Perfect. I don't want to speak too much Hebrew on the dais. I appreciate the information. I think it's a good idea to have more programs and have more housing stock for the communities. Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just have a few questions. So are these deed restricted units? Does anybody know? Yes. Okay. And is this building more units or is it converting existing units into this program?
Converting existing units.
Okay, so it's not actually an increase in amount of units. It's converting existing units and financing it so that it can be deed restricted affordable. Correct. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because I think for the public, when they hear building more units, they're like, right, like there's going to be a new building somewhere, but it's actually different when you say converting an existing unit and making it deed restricted affordable, because I have a little, I went to a meeting with the San Diego Housing Federation, and we were taking a look at different incomes, and 120% AMI above moderate income, you're making like $63 an hour. And individuals making that amount still have a high need for affordable housing, because the costs of housing are just so astronomical and they continue to go up, and then someone, in the 50 to 80% AMI low income, you're making about anywhere from $33 to like $42, right? And so there's a huge need for affordable housing. So I think anything that we can do at the city level to prepare ourselves in the event that interest rates kind of stabilize and go the way that we want them to in the future, that we can be ready for that opportunity. So I do appreciate Deputy Mayor Franklin putting this on. I've had conversations myself, and I look forward to ordinance or something coming forward where we can continue to have this discussion and we can have something in front of us to be able to look at some more information. But yeah, whatever we can do to provide more stability for Vistans is absolutely critical, especially as the economy continues to kind of froth over and bubbles, right? Unfortunately, people that are hit hardest are those here in Vista. We have a huge need. So thank you again, and that's all from me.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I too had questions about the terminology of building housing, and I was confused about the term middle income housing. Sean, thank you for being here. I think I spoke with your colleague, John Mendez, about those terms, and that the term middle income housing for your group does describe affordable housing still. It's on the higher end of affordable, right? The 60% area median income to 120% area median income. But it would still be considered affordable. So that would help us get closer to our city goals of securing more affordable housing in the community. And it doesn't require us to actually produce it. It doesn't have to be built. It's already built and it's already market rate housing that through a financing tool, we will be able to secure as deed restricted affordable units. So I'm definitely in favor of this, and I would like to see our city staff work with relevant stakeholders to develop a policy so that we can use this financing tool in the future. So if Deputy Mayor Franklin, you would like to provide a motion or direction, I'm happy to second it. I think that this is another tool in our toolbox, but it is important to reference that we aren't producing more units, and that could be a advantage, it can be a disadvantage. So it's just another opportunity for us to secure those affordable deed restricted units for the community.
I would just, my only contribution to all of that would be that they require that they make the property tax whole, that doesn't take it off there, because that's important to the city. So Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we've given fairly unanimous direction to staff. I think staff knows where we'd like to go with this. We'd love to see something come back to us as early in the new year as possible on this, but don't want to get extremely finite with it. I don't know that we need a motion necessarily. It sounds like we're all of a like mind and would like to have a more fully fledged conversation about it in the very near future. Thank you for the time, and thank you for being here tonight to discuss this with us.
And I want to thank Mr. Conley on his birthday for being here tonight.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Nothing like embarrassing him. Okay, our next item is California Proposition 1, Constitutional Right to Reproductive Freedom, and our Councilmember Melendez has asked for this item to be on the agenda, so I'm going to ask her to introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will go ahead and read the resolution that has been provided to you. The City Council hereby finds and declares the following. On June 24th, 2022, in a historic and far-reaching decision, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade, which guarantees the federal constitutional protection of abortion rights. This rollback on a woman's right to choose to have an abortion has reverberated through the country, both galvanizing communities to denounce the decision and energizing those to impose strict limitations on individuals seeking an abortion. Since the Supreme Court's reversal, more than 20 states have restricted access to abortions, imposing criminal sanctions on individuals receiving or performing an abortion, and in some cases, imposing civil offenses against any person who aids or abets a person from receiving an abortion. And access to reproductive health care should not depend on your zip code, and people should be able to access the reproductive health care they need without medically unnecessary barriers or restrictions. In addition, healthcare providers should be able to offer care without interference or fear of being criminalized. And reproductive freedom is intertwined with many issues of social justice, such as economic, gender, and racial equity. Therefore, a strong support system for reproductive measures ensures that Californians of all backgrounds have access to the care they need. Proposition 1, which will be voted on in November 2022 election, will allow individuals and families to continue to have the freedom to determine what is best for them and their families, giving people the ability to plan their lives and make important reproductive decisions without the government interfering. By expressly stating the right to choose to have an abortion as a fundamental right in the California Constitution, Proposition 1 will also protect against potential future attacks at the federal level and erosion of those rights by the courts. In action, the City Council hereby expresses its support for Proposition 1, which, if passed by the voters in the general election on November 8, 2022, would amend the California Constitution to expressly provide that the state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom, which includes their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. Thank you for letting me share. I hope my colleagues will support this resolution as a symbol of our solidarity with women and those who seek medical privacy. And I'd love to hear from any speakers and then hold the discussion.
Okay, I have 4 speakers. Hear from them first. Okay, we'll start with Carol Jeffries, followed by Jocelyn Ehlers.
Good evening. I want to thank you for bringing this resolution up. I think it's very important. I encourage the council to endorse this resolution supporting Proposition 1. This proposition will ensure full freedoms regarding healthcare decisions to the women of our state, although abortion and its attendant procedures are private personal healthcare decisions like every other healthcare decision should remain private and personal decisions, yes or no, just like other medical procedures. Additionally, no woman should have to divulge her most private decisions in order to persuade legislators that she deserves bodily autonomy. Please elect to support the passage of Prop 1 on behalf of Vista Populace. I look forward to you passing this resolution on our behalf and for respecting the individual rights and liberties of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Jocelyn Ehlers.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you for bringing this to the City Council and to all of us to hear it. And I want to speak strongly in favor of this, and I hope I will see you vote to support it. The proposition that's coming forward won overwhelming support at the state Senate and Assembly and shows overwhelming support among the California population. So I'd like to see my city come forward and stand for a woman's reproductive rights, which allows us to fully participate in our society. Thank you very much.
Rebecca Medici.
Hi, thank you so much for bringing this forward, Katie. And as an individual and as a board member of North County San Diego Women's March, I heartily support that Proposition 1 and believe the City Council should support it as well. Bodily autonomy for women and people with female reproductive organs is vital. If we don't respect bodily autonomy, we are no better than the government of Iran, where women have no bodily autonomy and are currently protesting their horrible treatment. As such, we need to support Proposition 1, which guarantees that people and women in California have the right to bodily autonomy and privacy, and thank you very much.
Cipriana Vargas.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Councilmember Melendez, thank you so much for bringing this forward. I'm here to speak this evening in support. Voters, this November 8th, will have the opportunity to stand for what's right, reproductive justice, and making sure that our community is safe. We know that abortions are under attack, and with that, access to these services that are so critical to members of our community, not just in the state of California, but in neighboring states across our nation. We also know that when people don't have access, they find ways. And these ways are, procedures that are not always in safe conditions. And so in California, this doesn't change anything because we have, had access to reproductive justice. Councilmember Green, you were at the Vista Community Clinic 50th anniversary. What a game changer. To have access to healthcare, to save lives, to make sure that we have the opportunity to do what's right. And once again, I stand in support of this and making sure that our sisters have access to the services here in the state of California. Thank you very much.
That's all of our speakers. Councilmember Contreras.
I too want to thank Councilmember Melendez for bringing this forward to the council. I never thought that I would see the erosion of bodily autonomy throughout our nation. It's been really, shocking developments. Abortion is reproductive health. I can't imagine having to make that decision. And who am I to judge? I was raised Catholic, and my family has always instilled to me those words of who are we to judge? I just can't imagine having to make that type of decision, especially when you don't have anywhere to turn to get information, to seek the care that you need. And unfortunately, what we've seen since Roe v. Wade was overturned, it's been difficult to see such young women not be able to access the care that they need. So I believe that this will probably pass overwhelmingly in November here in the state of California. But I do stand in favor of this resolution. And with that, I will hear from the rest of my colleagues.
Councilmember Green. Oh, Councilmember Melendez, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you to the speakers who shared your thoughts. I really appreciate that. I just want to make sure that I put a motion on the floor, officially making a motion to support this resolution. And I also want to share another perspective of this that isn't related to abortion access, but just related to female health in general. Even in states where women do have protected access to abortion, something that we see when we go to the doctor is a coercion to have a different level of care than we really need because we're of reproductive age, because we might have the potential to carry a child. We're sometimes denied access to certain medications that could cause fetus deformities. So I think that this is really important, not just for women who want to access abortions and contraceptives, but any woman of childbearing age that wants to have just adequate medical treatment and not be seen as an incubator, that wants to be able to live their life fully and healthfully. At the end of the day, I think that's what we all deserve. So that's a story I heard from a friend recently having struggles to get access to healthcare treatment. Even though they have access to abortion, they are still experiencing medical discrimination because they are a female. And with that, I would love to hear from the rest of my colleagues.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. When I saw this on the agenda, I I wondered what it was going to look like until I saw the actual resolution. And truth is, I have 3 daughters, and my daughters are 23, 21, 19. Actually, I have a granddaughter named Blair now, too. So women's rights are definitely extremely important to me. One thing I don't want to do up here at a city level is cause division within my city. And I do feel like no matter which way I vote on this, whether I vote yes or no, it doesn't necessarily have an effect on what the actual law is and what the actual right to a woman's choice is within my city or within my state. I do think that it's important that as a city, we come up with a resolution that just informs the community of the facts. It says, hey, we live in California, there's a resolution coming up, you have the right to choose, and you're gonna be voting on the right to choose. I don't know that this body, and I kind of defer to my city attorney and city manager, like, there's obviously split opinions on this subject, right? Regardless of where you stand. It's a very personal matter. To bring it forward at a council level definitely is takes a little bit of the personal factor out of it, and I'm sure it's to have people on the record as far as where they stand on pro-life or pro-choice. The truth is, we don't have any bearing on the actual state law. All we can do is relay the information to our citizens and our daughters and our granddaughters that your rights aren't being affected within the city of Vista, and that as your elected officials, we do support the Constitution of the United States and your right to choose and your right to have adequate access. So, I went over the resolution. I felt like there was some political verbiage in there that could be taken out, which, where it says it's a far-reaching decision. And, there's some things that I don't think 100% of the community would agree on. I mean, it was obviously a controversial decision. It was a huge decision that overturned something that was part of our, history for years. But I don't like putting verbiage on a resolution that is political. So my suggestion is that if we want to put a resolution forward, that it's a resolution that protects the opinions and the rights as they're already protected within the city of Vista. I'm not going to be making any new laws. I don't think that I need to, badmouth any other organization or party that votes any other way, and I don't think that it's the council's responsibility to do that. I can assure you that as an elected official within the city and within the state of California, your rights to reproductive freedoms are not under attack here. You can go to Vista Community Clinic. We have Planned Parenthood lately. We have a Planned Parenthood in California. There are a lot of resources for women within the state of California. I have a split household on this subject. Like I say, I got 3 daughters and a wife, and we all love each other regardless of what our opinions are on it. But the truth is, I feel like here at the city level, a resolution that needs to be made more general. So I do have a resolution kind of typed, and I wasn't sure. I went over it with Deputy Mayor Franklin because as this is a controversial subject, I said, hey, what's a resolution we can come up with that we can assure the residents of Vista that they have nothing to fear in the event there is an unplanned pregnancy or an unhealthy or unwanted and they need help? We need to be able to assure them that we still protect them as their elected officials. Our jobs are public safety, infrastructure, business development, and a woman's right to choose or rights in general are part of public safety. So I get the bringing it on the agenda, and I get wanting to state what a woman's rights are. And with that, I guess I can go over basically what the substitute resolution is. I don't definitely necessarily want to offer one at this point. I know that Councilwoman Contreras wants to speak as well, but if there is a way, and just kind of work with me here, if there's a way to make the resolution more general, and this is kind of the resolution that we came up with generally, that basically, in my opinion, says the city council, and it has to do with a resolution of the city council, same type of thing in regards to Proposition 1. The city council hereby finds and declares the following. On June 24th, 2022, the decision Dobbs versus Jackson, Women's Health Organization, the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade, eliminating federal jurisdiction over abortion rights. and the laws of the state of California currently protect a woman's right to reproductive choice. And Proposition 1, if passed by the voters in the general election on November 8th, would amend the California Constitution to expressly provide that the state shall not deny or interfere with any individual's reproductive freedoms, which include their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. And the people of Vista understand the issues involved with abortion and contraceptive policy and have the right to choose to include these rights in the state constitution, and decisions about abortion and contraceptive policies are deeply personal. Therefore, the City Council hereby resolves the members of the City Council have sworn and affirmed an oath to support and bear the true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that the City of Vista and its council respects the will of the voters and their right to include such rights as they shall choose in the Constitution of the State of California. So it's a very general resolution, but it basically says that, hey, we understand the laws, we support the laws, we support our voters, and we support, the women's, right to choose in the upcoming elections. So this particular motion, I feel like, doesn't have any heated, controversial political verbiage in it. It basically states the facts, and it says, as elected officials, it's our job to make sure our voters know the facts. It doesn't say how we feel about the decision either way. It basically just states that we resolve that we do protect the women, our daughters, our sisters, our granddaughters, our mothers within the city of Vista. So I've obviously thought about it a lot, spoke to every woman in my life about it, and this is what I came up with. I look forward to speaking with my colleagues.
Councilmember Contreras.
I understand where you're coming from, Councilmember Green. However, I do believe that it is historic and far-reaching to overturn Roe v. Wade, something that has been the law of the land for a long time, and how quickly we saw access to health care, reproductive health care, just crumble away. I wish I didn't have to have this conversation, honestly. I wish that, women were respected and had the access to the health care that they needed and that they need. But that's not the reality that we live in. So I will be seconding Councilmember Melendez's motion. And I do thank you for your comments, and I understand where you're coming from.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. Thank you for having the discussion and for offering an alternative. For the sake of discussion, I have the text here from the proposed change to our California Constitution, and I'll read it out. Proposition 1, this amendment proposed by the Senate Constitutional Amendment 10 of the 2021 to 2022 regular session amends the California Constitution by adding a section hereto. Therefore, new provisions proposed to be added are printed here. The state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom in their most intimate decisions, which includes their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. This section is intended to further the constitutional right to privacy guaranteed by Section 1. And the constitutional right to not be denied equal protection guaranteed by Section 7. Nothing herein narrows or limits the right to privacy or equal protection. So my resolution and my motion is to support Proposition 1, which is to add language to the California State Constitution, which further codifies the protection of our reproductive freedoms, and I would like it to remain that way. Another perspective on this, I've heard the term a little bit political, and as someone who is a woman, as someone who is currently bleeding, yes, I'm on my period, my body has become historically and currently is politicized. By codifying my rights and my sister's rights to reproductive freedom, we take power back from historical oppressions that we've experienced. So I do support positive language, which is to say, we should add more to the California State Constitution to protect women and their medical privacy and reproductive freedom. I don't think that neutral language meets that call for me. And that's just my perspective, right? I'm sharing with you very personal information, and I'm totally comfortable doing that. I hope you understand. My perspective is not to be political. My perspective is to express my reality as a woman and, like I said, stand in solidarity with women and those who seek medical privacy. And Proposition 1 seeks to expand that, not only for people in California, but other states. They are rolling back protections, and people will know that they can be in California and be safe. So for me, it's not enough to just say voters will have the opportunity to decide to add this to the state constitution. I, as a leader in the community, want to express that I support this proposition. So I'm happy to hear more from everyone and happy to vote on this, but that's my position.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And Councilwoman Melendez, thank you very much for the important opportunity to talk about this subject. We are going to be faced with an historic decision on the coming November ballot. And certainly all of us here on the council did swear or affirm our oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and of the state of California. But I think more important even than that is our faith and allegiance to the will of the voters of California. You know, as a elected representative of the people, I like to think about government decisions in two unique terms. One is what they call the representational model of government. The other one is the delegative model. That being that some decisions of government are very complicated, require extensive study, almost a full-time attention to the decisions being made. Those are where voters send us as delegates, and then, or excuse me, as representatives. And then there's the delegative model, which is where you know, they send us and expect us to do their will, particularly on issues that they well understand. I think, as Councilman Green said, this is a subject that voters have strong feelings about. They understand the implications of the important and historic choice that they're going to make in 42 days. And so I think to educate the community about this historic vote and to support the will of the voters is important. Councilman Green, I made some copies of the resolution that you read for everyone to consider. We'll send those down. And because this is such an important issue, I would offer that motion as an amendment in the nature of a substitute, which, if there is a second for, would become the pending language for approval before the body.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And let me see. I took a lot of notes here again, and I'm just going to say a couple more things. I heard Councilmember Melendez say you stand in solidarity with women, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure you stand in solidarity with a lot of women that you support that look at things the same way that you do. As I said, I have 4 women in my household, and not all 4 of those women stand in solidarity with you. So I don't think that every woman in the city of Vista stands in solidarity with you, even if the majority of them do. I think to say that you speak for every woman or stand in solidarity with women is not true, because I've been contacted by women via email, which I know you have too, adds to packet, that said that they thought this was beyond the purview of a city council, and why are we talking about a woman's right to choose at a city meeting? You know, I mean, I don't know if you want to. There's a lot of things we could talk about at city meetings that we have no actual jurisdiction over. And frankly, I feel like the motion that was added, the substitute motion, which was just brought forward, gives the information to the Vista voters that says, hey, this is what's going on. Your rights are protected. We as a council understand you have a decision to make. I have no desire to force my beliefs or my will for how you vote on a proposition in the upcoming ballot on any resident. So with that, I second the substitute motion.
Okay, want to know what I have to say? Everybody looking this way now. Okay, so I'm a woman. I've been a woman for 78 years, and I've been through a lot of phases of my life, from young all the way through pregnancies, menopause, all the way through all of it. And so I have a lot of experience and a lot of thoughts. I have 4 women in my family. We don't always agree on everything, and they probably won't always agree on this particular item, but my 4 daughters, don't agree with me on everything always. None of us ever do, which is fine. It doesn't mean we get mad at each other. We still get along okay, So, but I believe, I understand abortion if in case of a rape or incest or the life of a mother. I understand that, but I'm going to stand up for the life of and the justice of the unborn babies. I believe in that, and that's where I'm going to stand. That's my platform, and I just believe that a lot of unborn babies. Abortion was not legal when I was young, when I had children, and I'm not sure my children would be here if that was the case. And they had every right to be here. They're wonderful kids, but when I was young, they weren't always planned pregnancies. And they, when you get pregnant when you're young, sometimes you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with another kid? It's like you struggle with it, but you just deal with it. And so I totally believe in the life of babies. So anyway, so that's where I stand. So you guys can put your stuff out there, and you know where I'm going to vote. Okay, so I see we're going to go again here. So, okay, Councilmember Green. Oh, we already didn't buy that? Councilman Contreras, are you on there new? Okay.
I just had a point of clarification because Deputy Mayor brought forward what would have been what he called an amendment to the current motion. I didn't hear that it was a substitute motion. And
I did. I heard it was a substitute motion. That's what he said.
Point of clarification, a substitute motion is an amendment to the motion. It just amends more than your typical amendment, but it would be considered by Robert's Rules of Order as an amendment.
So it's a substitute motion.
The substitute motion is the equivalent of amendment, but it calls it a substitution when more of the text is being changed than a simple amendment.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, well, where are we? So do we have to call for a vote on the substitute motion?
You would call for a vote on whether the substitute motion will replace the original motion. And if the vote is in favor of that, then the original motion will basically disappear and the body will vote on the substitute. If it does not pass, then the original motion stays and the body will vote on the original motion.
Okay, so I call for a vote on the substitute motion. How about that? That motion fails with 3 no and 2 in favor. So then we go back. Then we go to the motion. Okay, so now I call for a vote on the motion.
City Attorney, could you clarify what we're voting on? Because based on Mayor's comments,
Your original motion.
We're now voting on your motion,
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember.
Did you want this to replace that?
Me? No, I'm voting no on these motions.
Well, but did you intend that this one would replace that one? And then you would vote no on this one?
Oh,
Is that what you wanted to do?
I could do that. Okay, well, I'll follow you with that, okay. So do you want to
I
redo
don't
the
know
vote on
what,
that?
So, or would you want to?
I don't understand, so
So if you were to ask the
well,
clerk,
this would pass, if we vote, oh, yes, if this is 3 votes on this, it passes, right, as the motion?
It
It doesn't just
it
replace.
wouldn't, it would just replace it, and then you would vote on the
And then we have to
motion.
vote on it?
Yes,
you'd still be able to vote no
Oh,
on
it
this.
just
as a
replaces the
substitute?
motion, and then we have to vote on it again?
correct.
Oh, okay, I didn't understand that.
So if you let the clerk know that you intended to vote yes on this,
I intended to vote yes on, then I would put yes to replace that, and then I'll vote on it again and
redo the
vote
vote.
no.
We should redo the vote.
Okay.
Okay, let's do the vote. So we're voting to replace this to replace the other motion. That's what we're voting on. Okay, so,
I need more clarification. This is confusing because there was a comment made by Mayor Ritter that she is not in favor of any of these, which would mean that her previous vote is in alignment with what she said. And then there was a separate discussion after that vote had taken place, whereby we are now voting, in the process of voting for the original motion. So
well, I did think we were voting on this amendment. I
We-
did think we were voting yes or no on this amendment, but apparently we weren't.
So we were voting, I think there's confusion being made on this. So previously, what we were voting on was the substitute motion, that's why I tried to clarify it to make sure that everybody knew, and you voted no on it.
So it's just to replace the verbiage from the first motion. I didn't understand that. This is just to vote on this is just to replace the verbiage on the first motion, not to replace, not yes or no on this motion.
Yeah, and I think I'm at fault. I didn't clarify it well. So the first vote would be replace the substitute motion, replace the original motion with the substitute motion. So it would be procedural only. You're not voting on the substance of the substitute motion. So really, right now, the body needs to determine which resolution it wants to vote on. So the first vote would be whether you want to vote on the original resolution or the substitute resolution.
so a yes vote on this vote will replace the original resolution with the substitute. The next vote will approve or disapprove of this language if it's approved as the substitute.
Correct. And my apologies for that. So yes, that is correct.
so if I vote yes, I'm voting that we're gonna be voting on this motion.
Correct. If it passes.
Right, okay, got it. So we're going to redo that vote. Sorry, I'm sorry, I was confused, but you know how I'll vote the second time. Oh, Councilmember Melendez, are you on here to talk? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know if that was an old one or a new one.
Thank you. And I apologize for interrupting before. I understand how you prefer to vote, Madam Mayor, and so I did see you make that mistake, and I wanted to make sure you had the clarification that is, I don't want you to vote against your will accidentally. But I did, since we're in discussion still, I wanted to take just a moment, Councilmember Green, to respond to your comments about standing with women, even women who do not believe in abortion or like the concept of abortion as a medical procedure or what have you. I used to be one of them. I still stand with them and their right to access that and medical privacy. And if there is an opportunity for me to vote on the substitute motion, for the public record, I will be abstaining. I believe that it is redundant as I've already taken a sworn oath to protect the Constitution, and it's redundant here. Thank you.
Well, then isn't your motion redundant also? Because it's coming to a vote of the people of the state of California. So isn't that kind of redundant that you're wanting the city to take a vote? Sure.
I don't think it's redundant because it's not a position that us as a body have made before. But as council members, we have taken an oath to protect the Constitution.
What about the other half of the city that, you were taking a vote on something that's very controversial, so.
I don't know if it is controversial because it has majority support, not only throughout the state of California, but throughout our country. Majority do not support the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So this whole controversial question, I don't see it that way. I was really presenting, right, Proposition 1 is coming up on the ballot. I support it. These are my reasons. And this is where the discussion led us. So I totally understand where everybody else is coming from and appreciate the comments.
Okay, so moving on. So we're going to vote on the verbiage of this. No, we're not.
We're going to vote procedurally on whether the substitute motion will become the main motion.
Got it. Okay. Okay, and that one passes. So now this motion becomes the motion. So then,
You can have further discussion if you wish, or call for the vote, if there's no.
I think we just call for the vote. I think we had enough discussion.
I actually have something to say.
Okay.
So I believe that the substitute resolution is kind of sad. It doesn't take a stand. It simply says, this is what's happening. So if this were a news update, it would be okay, but as a resolution, it really doesn't hold any kind of resolve of the council. So I will be not in favor of this substitute resolution. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so I'm going to see no further discussion. I guess we'll call for the vote on this. Did everybody vote? And that motion, what is it? It fails. That motion fails also. So where does that take us? Nowhere. Takes us nowhere, and we're done. Okay. So with that, we're going to go to oral communications, and I have two oral communications here. We're going to go to James, is it Minsig? Is James still here? Thank you for sticking with us to the end.
Tough. My name is James Mincy. I live on Goodwin Drive, west of Taylor. Ms. Contreras had a Zoom meeting with us on the 16th of this month because we have an issue with traffic in our area, heavy traffic in our area, speeding, kids doing donuts on Taylor and Goodwin. I was dealing with Mr. Jaime Oroso and with Ms. Contreras, and we spoke for an hour, but the issue is, and we had a petition regarding stop signs and traffic calming. I've submitted it already to the traffic, Mr. Oroso, so he's got all of that with all the neighbors from Amo, Calle Rancho, I forget the name, and Angelica, I believe is the third cul-de-sac on Goodwin. And so we're just hoping that she recommended we come and talk to you about considering some type of resolution to control the really heavy traffic in the morning and at night of people using our street, Osborne, to manipulate getting off of Vista Village to avoid, Gopher Canyon, to get on the 76 to go to Fallbrook. And it's extremely dangerous. I have kids at night that stand at each end of our street with walkie-talkies, and kids are drag racing up and down our street because it's a quarter-mile drag strip, 2 lanes. When they put in the community, one section of our street is wide, and then all of a sudden it narrows, at Rancho Cafe. I'm sorry about the name, but it's gotten really bad. We don't have sidewalks on both sides of the street, so people walking their dogs have to watch for cars in order to cross the street so they don't get hit. Guys driving with large trucks and trailers at a higher rate of speed than normally you would be doing because they're in a hurry to get down to Osborne, to get down to all those side streets to avoid Vista Village and the traffic lights and Gopher Canyon. And so I'm here to speak on behalf of our neighbors. I've got like 80% of the neighbors signing the petition for both the traffic calming and the stop signs. I don't think stop signs are going to work because nobody stops at Taylor and Goodwin. We put those flashing lights in. Kids are doing donuts. They came in and put those markers on the middle of the street. And the next day I'm videotaping a guy doing donuts on top of those side markers that were put on the street. So it's a waste of money. And we've got flashing lights there, but nobody stops. After the flashing lights were put in, there was a police officer that sat there for 1 hour. And I guess he wrote like 15 tickets in an hour. He just had enough time to stop and reset and nail another guy, but then no more enforcement ever since then. And, we talked about speed bumps and the fire department complaining, well, our trucks can't go over speed bumps. I mean, it doesn't have to be 3 feet tall. It could be 6 inches. It could be just...
Your time is up. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're listening, but I just...
I just wanted to address to the city council that there's a real big problem.
Okay.
And hopefully that you guys can address it. She recommended it'd be good to talk to everybody so that everybody hears that there's a problem in our district about the traffic.
Okay, is Ann with you? Ann?
Yes, she's right here.
Oh, okay. Oh, where'd she go? Did you see escape? Oh, okay. Okay.
Is it okay if I?
Yes, stick it. Thanks for sticking with us.
James is my neighbor, and since we've been living on Goodwin, we've been there almost 8 years now, and the speed with which people drive down that road is actually shocking. And I won't lie, I'm a total lead foot. I love to drive fast. I own a Tesla. It's great, but in that time, the incidences that have actually occurred already, to give you some examples, is besides the donut spinning, which everyone in the neighborhood hears, you see the smoke, the loud sound, the dogs barking, it's extremely frustrating. The drag racing, again, the noise, the sounds, it's very obvious. I also have a lot of pets, and so the fear of animals getting hit in the road besides children, but also because people want to go down that road so fast to avoid traffic, they're not in the best calm state of mind. And one time, I'm like the third house down from Taylor and Goodwin on the corner, and I have to turn on my turn signal every time because I am so scared of getting rammed to turn into my own home. And I've had people scream at me, flip me off, yell at me because I had the audacity to slow down to turn into my own home. And my brother was visiting me from Nebraska a couple years ago and had my daughter in the car and didn't quite know the rules of that particular road. And when he went to turn, he went a little bit out, you know how you do to turn, and bam, someone tried to cut in on the right, no less, to go around him. Caused a car accident, scared the kids, et cetera, et cetera. I know a neighbor who lives on the corner who's not here today. I don't want to speak for her totally, but she has a child who has severe visual impairment, almost blind, who is terrified to let her kid even cross the road to go to Vista High, which is less than 2 blocks from my house. And that's kind of disheartening to think, I can't let my child or even walk to the bus stop, which is literally up my hill, across the street to the left, 100 feet. And I see tons of parents like really cautiously walking their kids to that bus stop because people fly through that stop sign. So I believe that our best bet is to possibly put a stop sign, I think it's Corte Ranchero, the second street down, to at least try to stop it. I admit my concern is they're gonna blow through that as well, but I think it's worth the effort, at least to do a step one. Ideally, if I had my way, I drive through San Marcos a lot, and Lake San Marcos community is a perfect example. Those low, wide speed bumps, they're not fire truck stoppers, but they do make you slow down if you don't want to totally ruin your car. So I just wanted to put that in there as well as a potential way to slow down that traffic between Taylor and Barsby in particular, where they fly through really quickly and have caused car accidents.
Your time is up, but maybe can we have engineering, look at that and.
Okay. Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time today.
Okay. Okay, that is all our oral communications. So that's all of our speakers. So then the next thing we have is our comments. I'll just do my little thing here and then I'll pass it on down. Innovate 78, along with the City of Vista and our 4 neighboring cities along Highway 78, is hosting a funding strategies networking event for North County's startup community on October 6th at the Film Hub in Vista. Information is available online at innovate78.com. Join the Vista Sheriff Station at their first Tacos with the Community event tomorrow, September 28th at Northgate Market from 2 to 4. Northgate will provide free tacos and refreshments, and information is available online at cityofvista.com for that. So that is the end of my little talk, so we'll go down to Deputy Mayor.
Nothing else tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
How about Councilmember Green?
It is Taco Tuesday in the city of Vista, and we are getting out of here prior to 8 o'clock, so I recommend everybody gobble up some tacos in the city of Vista. Thank you, deputies, for being here tonight. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for staying, and thank you, amazing staff in the back, for smiling and hanging in there. Have a great night.
If I could, one thing, since you mentioned tacos, our deputies are hosting Tacos with the Community tomorrow. Oh, you just said
say that?
Oh, did you? Oh, good. Okay, I was thinking about it. Excellent.
You must have really been thinking.
Thanks. Well, I'll be there, and I hope the rest of you will join me.
Thinking I'm going to that. Okay, Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank all my coworkers on staff for the excellence that you bring to this chamber. Thank you so much. And to my colleagues, always for a really robust discussion on so many different items. And I want to thank the public for coming forward. 2 constituents of mine. I want to make sure that the council is hearing. It's not just in my district, but I've already connected a bunch of people. I got team captains that are going to be looking at this petitioning process. But I would like in the future, the near future, to agendize a discussion on where we're at with our petition process. I want to know how many people are applying for it. I want to see a little bit more data on the petition for speed humps and if there needs to be an update to that. Because I think that, and even when we had, I don't want to talk at length for too long, but when we were talking to our sheriff's captain, Lopez, I expressed that, the community really, I'm getting a lot of individuals coming to me and saying that they want more traffic enforcement in these particular cut-throughs. So anyways, I look forward to continuing to discuss all facets of public safety in the future. Tomorrow there is a trash pickup at Luz Duran Park, and if you want to join us, it'll be fun. I don't know if it's going to be too hot. We're actually starting at 8 a.m. and for anybody who wants to, you can reach out to Jovita Serafin. She's an incredible team captain, and now that I have to go down to San Diego so much, I'm not able to make a lot of the Wednesdays, but they're still there picking up trash. So thank you again, and I hope you have a good night and eat some tacos, even rolled tacos. It can be any kind of form of taco.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you to everyone who spoke. A few people left here. Thank you for the opportunity that I get to have to serve my community. And I also want to say Shana Tova to any of us who may be celebrating Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. Tonight is the last night, so I hope everybody has an awesome New Year. Good night.
Don't forget tacos. Okay. Yes, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 things tonight. The private property owner, primarily of Vista Village, has recently installed and is in the process of completing the roundabout at Main Street and Wave Drive, right at the Wave and Swami's. So people need to be careful when they approach it. We've already had some drivers go the wrong way that may not be familiar with roundabouts. But the owner is also in the process of installing the signage as well as the art that is going to be placed there as well. So it's a work in progress, even though the physical nature of the roundabout is complete.
I think with our 3 roundabouts that they would figure out how to use that one too.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen video of people going the wrong way. And it might have been people from Europe that came over on a holiday, but we're just letting everybody know that the roundabout's in place. And then the other thing is the COPS team, which is the community-oriented policing team with the Sheriff's Department, has a new way to contact them. And so now if you'd like to contact the COPS team during Monday through Friday, there's a non-emergency way, and it's a website. So you go to vista.homelessoutreach at sdsheriff.gov. So vista.homelessoutreach at sdsheriff.gov. And Monday through Friday, this email address will be checked, and COPS team members will check it and get back to the public. So one other way to notify the COPS team of issues in and around our community, such as homeless encampments and those type of things. Thank you.
How about Walter, anything from the attorney? You had enough to say tonight? Okay. City Clerk Kathy? City Assistant Claire? Okay, well with that then it is 7:45 and we are adjourned.